everyone. So today we're gonna do a review and comparison. The 907X that I bought a couple of years ago versus my new, via grant, Hasselblad X2D. These cameras use the same sensor, 100 megapixel system. They use the same autofocus system. So you would think that the experience would be very similar. Nothing could be further from the truth. So why is the experience different? Well, the 907X is definitely more like the old style Hasselblad System 5 cameras. It has the articulating screen, but essentially that's how you take all your pictures. So everything's controlled through the screen, including your focus and setting your focus points, and also controlling all your camera settings through the screen. It really slows you down because you cannot view your scene and make adjustments essentially at the same time. Once you go into the menu on the 907X, you no longer can see the field of view of the camera. However, on the X2D, it has an EVF, so you can see that. Now, they do sell an aftermarket EVF for the 907X. I do not have one. The other very significant difference between the two cameras is that the Hasselblad X2D does have 5-axis image stabilization. The 907X does not have that. And that makes a big difference shooting in the field. Now, if you've watched my videos at all, you know I have a significant hand tremor. So I essentially, no matter which of these cameras that I'm using, I use a monopod. It's a simple fix to get sharp photos out of both cameras. So, however, typically I put the monopod on the X2D, but if I'm using the 907X, I most of the time don't use the monopod. I actually put it on a full tripod. And there's a couple of reasons for that. A, since it does not have the image stabilization, a full tripod just gives more stability, number one. Number two, making adjustments on the tripod for setting the composition for the type of shooting that I do with that camera is just, to me, makes more sense. The X2D, however, it is much better at shooting on the run. Having that EVF makes a big difference in the shooting experience between the two cameras. Now, image quality wise, the pictures that come out of these two cameras are generally identical. You have the same color science, same color depth, same tonal ranges. So depending on your style of photography, might actually make one camera make more sense than the other. Now, the X2D had actually come out at the time that I bought the 907X. And you would think that I would have chosen the X2D over the 907X, except for one factor. Coming from the film environment and my expectations of how I was going to use the 907X, or the camera, I chose the 907X because of its removable digital back. And why is that important? Well, I would, at some point, like to get a 500 series old school Hasselblad camera, film camera, for multiple reasons. Number one is the experience of shooting it. The second issue is I do like manual focus lenses. Now, with what's been going on with my eyes over the last couple of years, that would seem counterintuitive, but I still like manual focus and manual control of the lenses. I have learned to rely a great deal on the autofocus on the X2D and the 907X. But yeah, I was just more attracted to the 907X at the time. And there's nothing wrong with the camera. What it's designed for and what I use it for, it's great. But having, within the last year, I think it was about a year ago, I stopped shooting a Leica Type 109, otherwise known as a Leica Deluxe camera. This camera, and in particular with this lens, my shooting experience with this camera highly matches my experience with that Leica camera. And that's important because I really enjoyed that camera for years. This lens has a very similar focal range. Technically, it's a 100 or a 35 to 100 millimeter, but it performs essentially like a 28 to 80. Not exactly the same as the Leica Type 109. Its Summilux lens performed like a 24 to, I believe it was 74 or 76 millimeter lens, zoom lens. But yeah, that focal range in there is close enough, and I really enjoy shooting this camera in this configuration. I generally don't expect to ever remove this lens from this camera. The 907X, however, I will definitely swap out lenses because it's already slowing me down. But the prime lenses, now, the quality of the images coming out of both of these cameras is superb. There are areas, and I love this telephoto zoom, short telephoto zoom, but the prime lenses that I have yield just slightly better results. In certain circumstances. Most of the time, you cannot tell the difference between images with those primes versus this 35 to 100. Of course, this 35 to 100 is also an E-series lens versus the older XCD lenses that I have, and the 45p lens in particular. Performance wise, probably at certain f stops will perform as good, but um, it's, to me at least, it's does not approach the quality of this zoom lens. So, you know, I know it's an odd question, but you know, if you're a traditional SLR shooter, you are probably really going to want the X2D, and even more so the new X2D Model 2. That Model 2 gives you a capability of focusing literally in complete darkness. And that is amazing. I am fortunate that I didn't have to pay for this camera, because I would not have spent the money on it. You know, the 907X gives me my medium format access in a form factor that I was used to. The X2D definitely behaves more like a DSLR, or, you know, in today's modern mirrorless DSLR style cameras. So if you're coming from that genre camera, you're definitely going to want to move into the X2D as opposed to the 907X. If you're an old film shooter, and if you've ever shot medium format film, you'll probably want the 907X, just because the experience is easily comparable to that film experience shooting. So anyway, that's it for today. I will put out a video next week. However, the following week I'm having eye surgery again on my left eye. You know, I had a vitrectomy almost a year ago in my left eye. The following week I developed the post-operative infection, so they had to go back in, remove the fractured lens pieces, and had to replace the oil. Well, they have not been able to get images of the retina for a long time. The capsule thickened. So recently, however, they did manage to get an image of the retina. The retina itself generally looks really good, but there's a crescent shape of new scar tissue that has developed in the eye. So on the 23rd, they're going to have to go back in, remove the existing oil. They're going to remove that scar tissue and laser it up. And then they're going to refill and put fresh oil in. I'm getting an oil change. And then it's going to be at least 6 months, probably closer to a year, before that will come back out. In the meantime, they're also not going to put a lens in because the oil has a tendency apparently to stick to the lens. So we'll have to wait until the oils are removed again and see if we can get a lens in the eye, at which point hopefully I'll be able to see stuff. So that's the latest update on my eye. I thank those who have wished me well in the past, and I just wanted to give you a brief update. So that's it for today. I'll have a video out next week, and then I'll have a week off. So I may record 2 videos and just schedule one out, but I don't know yet. So have a great week, and we'll see you next week.